All right, racket number one. Millennials are changing the luxury real estate market. This is according to Bloomberg. We'll link it up as we always do if you want to check out the article. And at 38%, millennial adults born from 1981 to 1996 represent the largest share of home buyers in the U.S. 38% of adults are millennials. Nicole, did you just sneak in? Were you
I
81?
just snuck in. I'm an 81er. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You always say you're not a millennial, but you have to start
because there's
including yourself.
Well, I'll include myself, but there's like this, and you always make fun of me for even bringing it up, but there's like this 10-year in between that like we're millennials, but we're also, what's the one prior? Oh, I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to Google it. But there's like this like 10-year gap where
there's an in-between. There's a 2-year in-between.
I'm kind of in between because like I didn't have computers or a cell phone like in elementary or middle or even really in high school. I didn't even have a cell phone. But so
neither did I.
It takes us.
Matter.
Well,
you're like 2 years older than me.
I'm hearing you, but I'm saying though, like, but when you're talking about 1996, like they probably did, you know?
Oh yeah, the 1994, 95, 96 millennials are much different than the early 80 millennials
different.
like
we are
you and I.
very different beings. Yeah. Yes.
All right, Bradley Nelson, Chief Marketing Officer for Sotheby's, says they want to buy a home. They're interested in owning a home. They just waited longer to buy their first one, so, a lot of times first-time home buyers, obviously, they buy a starter home, something really affordable, maybe a fixer-upper.
Or a
because
condo.
Millennials, or a condo, exactly. I think you bought a condo for your first home, right?
I did, yeah.
I bought a two-family in a crappy neighborhood, and it was definitely a fixer-upper. So, like, yeah, one of those starter homes. I was trying to hack with the rent. You were doing it with the condo, obviously, to keep the price down and the maintenance down.
Mm-hmm.
But millennials, probably these ones that we're talking about, born in the 90s, they've waited longer. They saved more money. They didn't get hurt in the last housing crisis, and they've got more money to spend, so they're in the luxury market. Here's the other thing that's interesting, according to Bloomberg, is that millennials are the most educated generation in history. They have a higher earnings, and they're set to inherit more than any prior generation. This is in the Bloomberg, but it's actually according to Brookings Institute, a May 2020 report by them. So they've just got more dough than most of these other generations.
Well, it's also because they didn't buy those condos either. So they definitely
True.
were sitting on their money a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, of course, and I hate to like say, again, like you're talking about inheriting. And so obviously if parents are passing.
I don't fall into that category.
You are definitely, grabbing some money from all those baby boomers. But I think that skipping that first purchase, as much as we're all talking about putting your money into the real estate market, I think it, in this situation, it probably has helped them, especially if they weren't wasting it. I do agree. I think that a lot of them, even just with like stocks and then, sort of get throwing their money into things that made sense, or even just like multiple streams. Think about I know that we're sort of, well, anyway, I think that obviously skipping over the first one does allow them to have a little bit more wealth.
Baby boomers are retiring to sunnier locales, while remote work has allowed millennials to ascend the housing ladder in smaller, more affordable cities. We have seen that obviously in 2020, where the smaller cities, millennials have loved the big city, New York City, LA, that whole lifestyle, and not as much obviously over the last year. But that was a Sotheby's global luxury report in this year from
but
January.
We've always talked about that, though, that people being drawn to things that are, walkability, even if it's not a large city, even if you're talking about a small town, people prefer to be closer to like greens and downtowns where they could access restaurants. And I still think that that's true. I don't know many people that want to be too far away from anything that's easily accessible.
72.1 million millennials. 72 plus million. So by far the largest adult generation right now. And a lot of them still have not bought their first home. So when we talk about that Zillow stat, or not stat, but theory, that there's going to be even more transactions. Usually the U.S. trades at about 6 million, just about 6 million transactions per year. Zillow thinks that could even go as much as 10 million transactions a year. One of the driving forces is how many millennials there still are that haven't bought their first home. And then to further that point, how many millennials have bought their first home but are going to start trading and reshuffling around. We always talk about the great reshuffling. So there is a lot of transactions still to come. And baby boomers, they reference the baby boomers moving to, southern states and sunny locations as they retire. There are so many transactions. Even when we're sitting here in an inventory-starved market, there are so many transactions building up.
Well, I think that that's important to bring up too, though, is because our inventory is so low. Could there be even more transactions if there was the ability to buy more?
Yeah, there definitely would be.
I mean, I do think what's really important right now is for builders to sort of see what's happening here, because they have this incredible opportunity to really sort of capture these buyers, especially if they're skipping over that first time, like the first time buyer, like a Hondo or that entry level. I mean, this is going to be an incredible opportunity for them to like have these buyers jumping into these communities if they're able to grab their hands, like if they're able to get their hands on land.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think that, again, with the lack of inventory, there could actually be a lot more transactions if we just had the properties to sell.
And millennials that have saved up are going to want new. They're going to want some really high-end tech into their home if they can afford it. So all this kind of makes sense. I don't think it's a racket. I don't think 72 million millennials are going to end up in the luxury category. Not all of them are,
of course,
making that type of income, but all right, check out the rest of the article.
Well, but I think what's super interesting is obviously it won't be a luxury property, but definitely, like you were saying before, like luxury items for sure.
Yeah.
I think
amenities,
they'll certainly, absolutely, pick that over square footage every day of the week.